Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Berkeley Young, President of Young Strategies, your moderator for this session.
Good morning. Good morning. I always appreciate welcome applause because you haven't done anything to earn it. It's just so nice. Welcome to our online community who's with us today for this session. Hope everybody is ready to learn. We have a power-packed panel. That was alliterative. But first, a little bit of housekeeping on a very important topic. Every year at this forum, at this session, TTRA does adopts a local charity and does a fundraiser. And Longwoods International is the proud sponsor of the 2022 TTRA Annual Conference's Charity Drive, supporting the local organization, Our Place Society. Our Place Society has grown from a unique inner-city community center to 9 locations serving Greater Victoria's most vulnerable, including people struggling with homelessness, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, the working poor, and the impoverished elderly. Let's play a video real quick about this.
There's only one Our Place Society. They provide over 680,000 meals per year to the needy. Over 600 haircuts are given by volunteer stylists annually. And more than 13,000 free showers are taken too. Our Place Society's food and hygiene services are only available because of the generosity of others. Your donations can help provide a warm meal, a trim, or a hot shower to someone who needs it. Donate today and transform a life at ourplacesociety.com.
Thank you. If you would like to support Our Place Society, you can make a donation directly from the conference app. Once you open the app, click Info on the bottom bar. The donation link can be found in the FAQ section. You can also stop by the registration desk if you would like to donate cash outside of the app. We thank you for your support and hope you'll support this worthy cause as part of our conference. Now on to the main part of our show today. We have an incredible panel of 3 brilliant people, and to keep things moving and keep it as tight as possible, I'm not going to introduce between the speakers. I'm going to ask them each to come on stage now, and then they will present their information. So first up, we have Kelly Golaski with the Travel Foundation. Yes, just take a seat. And then next up, we have Daniel Nahupi with SMS. And then we have Angela Nagy with Green Step Solutions Incorporated. Each of these brilliant people, their bios are in your program, and we hope that you will read the bios and be ready to learn from the content. It's going to be incredible. So let's begin with Kelly.
Hi, everybody, and hi, everyone online as well. Thanks for having me here today. And I'm here representing the Travel Foundation. We're an international nonprofit organization dedicated to working with destinations to achieve positive impacts in their communities. And this topic about remeasuring success is really all about balance. And as a Libra, this is something that is really resonates with me, and I have an inherent need to feel balanced. So I'm happy to be able to speak about this today. Oh, that's going backwards. They didn't show us. Which way's? There's like one arrow? Nope, that's off. The front arrow. Oh, there, the big green one. Okay. So that was just to make you laugh. You know, it's the morning. We gotta. Yeah. Okay, so starting off with the measures that we're used to. This is all familiar, but it is a little bit one-sided, as we can see. Of course, this is really focused on economic growth. And for all of these reasons on the slide and more, so many destinations, and some desperately so, are seeing the need to find ways to achieve balance, to look at other measures of success, cultural, social, and environmental and mental well-being indicators in their communities. Because so many destinations are literally feeling that they're being killed, and people are saying they're being killed by tourism. To quote Visit Flanders, "The transforming 20s will be the decade in which we dare to change a view that has brought us progress, but that is now killing us slowly." In 2019, the Travel Foundation, alongside Cornell University and Eplerwood International, put out a report called The Destinations at Risk: The Invisible Burden of Tourism, and it really highlights a lot of these issues, a lot of hidden costs of tourism that are not being accounted for, and they're just falling outside of those measures. Some examples of the invisible burden of tourism could be the need to invest in upgrading in your infrastructure to service peak demand during your high season, or the risk facing coastal destinations due to climate change, or the economic burden due to high cost of living that's literally pushing out residents and the employees that are needed to service the tourism economy. And just as we need to be getting more sophisticated about looking at all of the different hidden costs of tourism in our communities, we also need to be more sophisticated about understanding the benefits. And we know in destinations, you're always trying to communicate the value that tourism is bringing to your communities. But are you looking at it through the DEI lens? Are these benefits being actually seen by the residents or people that need it most? A quick example, if you are using tourism dollars to put in a fantastic new electrical in-town transit system, but the frontline service workers are just far enough away that they can't access that system, are they actually receiving the benefits of tourism, those tourism dollars in that investment? So what needs to change? Broader mandates, finding ways to determine what those balanced measures of success are for your destination, and of course, public-private collaboration for innovation. Some destinations that are starting to make this shift, we have the Netherlands in their 2030 strategic plan talking about going from tourism as a goal to a means for communities, or Edinburgh saying we're changing from driving growth to managing growth. And Amsterdam is saying, more is not necessarily enough. They're actually looking at establishing upper limits of visitor numbers, but also lower limits, recognizing that they do need tourism in their community for all of these potential benefits. So where's that place that works out in the middle? Where's that balance? So where do we start? We can start by simply asking this simple but profound question. Why do we want tourism? What do we want tourism to achieve in our communities? And then we can find those measures of success that align with those values, specific to our destination. It requires shifting more towards placemaking and having more democratic participation of residents in destination decision-making, and collaborating with those other sectors that are not inside tourism that are dedicated to creating benefits in the community, and finding some funding solutions to cover those hidden costs. Some other examples of shifting measures taking place in specific destinations. New Zealand's new strategy is focused on measures that come from Maori principles of equity and prosperity and care and sustainability. Travel Oregon's new strategy is based on 3 pillars of equity, stewardship, and prosperity. In terms of collaboration, when the Glasgow DMO decided to do a climate action plan, they collaborated with their city council to look at how tourism could contribute to that city's climate action plan already in place. And Group Now is an initiative of over 20 destinations, 20 DMOs around the world coming together to try and do a pilot project to develop an innovative, democratic model for resident engagement in tourism decision-making. So what does some of these balanced measures look like? That's nice, it makes me feel good, balanced, not too one-sided. But certainly looking at tourism, the visitors' impact on your communities, understanding tourism's burden on your natural and built assets, looking at those benefits and how they are being perceived and received, and looking through that DEI lens. Understanding the different risks in your destination and how tourism is contributing to climate and ecological impacts. So again, not one-sided and only economic, science-based targets wherever possible. That can tell you optimal value framework with destinations of Lake Tahoe and Vail right now, where we're trying to identify for that destination, what are those high priority impacts, both positive and negative, and where they can try and achieve the balance. Because if they're doing so many different things in so many different areas, but overall there's inequities and challenges that are still persisting, where can they invest to move the dial that's going to be really optimal for that destination specifically? Finally, just one measure that you could start with today, if signing the Glasgow Declaration for Climate Action in Tourism, you'll immediately have a new measure to have your carbon emissions by 2030 and pathways with which to do that. Also, the Future of Tourism Coalition is a collaboration of 6 international sustainable tourism NGOs that came together to come up with some guiding principles that, you know, they don't have a specific measure that you can check a box, but they're philosophies by which you can then understand what are the measures you need to put in place in your destination to see the whole picture and have more balance in your measures of success. Scotland is another example that's decided to use the carbon cost of all the tourism activities in their destination. And so looking through a climate lens at all of their activities. Don't have time to go into details on it, but certainly an interesting model to take a look at. And finally, I'll leave you with one thing you can do today. So we'll play that video. Thank you so much.
Do you love the
Aloha, I'm Daniel Naho'opi, and I'm from SMS Research. It's a Honolulu-based research company. And I'm going to talk a little bit about frameworks, or actually changing the way you look at tourism in order to then do the measurements you're looking for. So think about it this way. This is a difference. You know, we talked about Kelly talked about balance. It's all about, here's your foundation. Your foundation is typically your land, your destination. On one side, you have the visitor, the customer, and the guest, actually, is a better framework for that. And on the other side of the framework is the community, the people who live there day to day. And in the center, we always forget the white space. But this is where tourism lies. It supports the other three sides. It keeps it balanced and keeps it together. And it provides the energy that keeps our triangle without tipping over or falling down. So that's the kind of framework that if you envision that, you'll see that you can create different marketing campaigns and such that have to address all three sides in order to be understand how residents feel and how they interact with their land. And then the visitors can also interact with the residents and the land. So I'm going to play for you what Hawaii did in changing their current marketing campaigns to Malama Hawaii, which means to take care of Hawaii, which is the land, not just the destination, but the land itself, and the people, the residents taking care of the land, but the visitors also participating in that. Okay, Malama Hawaii.
Malama is to cherish and protect the reefs, the fish, the birds, the winds, and the land. I love showing people how to Malama Aina, teaching people how we protect and cherish our lands.
This area is actually a wetland, but because of the diversion of the water, it's pretty dry now. So our main goal is to restore the habitat to what it used to be, so all the native birds in the area that come down have a place to live.
You did a great job, bro, but you missed the spot.
Hala is what we are planting today, and also the ones that look like coconut palms over there are lo'ulu. The work that we're doing, it's like foundational work, helping native plants thrive and also replanting native plants. This right here is Waihe'e River, the Ahupua'a Waihe'e.
In Hawaiian culture, Ahupua'a is the unity between mountain and the ocean. When rain comes, it feeds down from the top into the lo'i, where people plant kalo, and then from there it gets diverted back into the river and into the ocean.
And it makes the ecosystem a lot more abundant.
If you say you love or enjoy Hawaii, you think it's beautiful, you can also contribute to help to keep the place beautiful. And if you have a part in that, that's something that lasts generations. If my ancestors have been doing this for generations, it has to work for us.
Learn how you can Malama Hawaii at gohawaii.com/malama.
Were you able to see some of the principles that we talked about? There's a good saying, a native Hawaiian saying, He ali'i ka'aina, he kawa ke kanaka. The land is chief, and us, the people, are its servants. So at the same time, the land supports us as its chief. It protects us, but it also, we support. But we have to be a part of the task as well. And you saw the campaign and how it's been structured. So let's look at some of the principles that we talked about. So integrity of environment. So when the visitor comes, they understand a little bit more about how the environment plays a role within their own destination, where they're visiting, how it actually supports their choice to be here and their interaction. And also the video showed about how it's not just the ocean where most of the visitors are, but it starts all the way up from the mountains and the water flowing down. And at every point, there's need for support. Positive community well-being. Nowadays, there's a lot of shift, especially after the pandemic, about the communities investing back in their own neighborhoods, in their own, the land surrounding them, the natural environment. So if the communities are doing that, then the visitors should also be participating and doing that support. They're part of the community, right? They sit within the resort areas maybe, but the resort is still part of a community and they're interacting with the environment. Supports the culture vitality. As you noticed, the comment was that it's also a native Hawaiian traditional practice to take care of the land. They think the kalo or the taro, native Hawaiians feel that the taro plant is their older brother and we need to keep supporting it. So by interacting, the visitors interact and do the planting and helping to clear the waterways. But that's something that that's a cultural activity, not just the hula dancing and the canoe paddling. There's other cultural events and they're exposed to that through this. Increase hiring, career readiness, and leadership for target groups. So now we're providing actual tour opportunities by inviting the visitors to these nonprofits and also local establishments to do the plantings, to do the reforestation projects. So it provides careers and it gives them a path for those who are studying cultural activities or natural environment resource management. They have more job opportunities because now the visitors are participating in that and expanding the wealth of the labor pool that's supporting these communities. Build circular economies and regenerative outcomes. So now those visitors are coming, they consume the resources, some of the food that they ate, consume some of the water, right, that was there, and they realize that they have to give back. They have to keep that waterway clean. They have to clean the beach that they're at, so you don't have all of the trash that maybe some visitors blew off of the visitors' picnic bench or something like that. But they're actually participating in it. And then it improves resiliency for the destination itself and the community. There's always this idea of buying local, being able to keep more of it in terms of food productivity locally, so that the visitors understand that project. And what has happened now, in fact, Hawaii has part of this campaign, so we have the videos that run so before people come to Hawaii to understand about doing malama type activities. So many properties have actually contributed to the campaign by adding a 5th night free or 6th night, an extra night free if you participate in one of these activities. And there's a list of the various charities that you can participate with. And for doing that, you receive the extra benefit, or you might get a discount or something. And it's been very popular. So you have to engage the industry itself to be a part of it, but it's not that difficult for them to then contribute. Mahalo.
Good morning. My name is Angela Nagy. I'm president and CEO of Green Step Solutions. And today we've heard from my co-panelists about some really amazing ways that the tourism industry is transforming, some of the goals and the outcomes that we're striving towards as an industry. And I want to share some examples of the work that my company is doing to help measure our progress towards those goals and those outcomes. And as a purpose-driven and mission-based entrepreneur, I really started the company to change the world. And over the last 14 years, we've worked with thousands of businesses and talked to thousands more inside and outside of the tourism sector, invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into research and development. And what we've been hearing and what we're trying to respond to is that companies are very interested in understanding, and destinations, interesting how are they performing when it comes to sustainability. They want to move beyond kind of piecemeal one-off actions and start building more of a strategy that includes an understanding of where they are today, what success looks like, and what are the things they need to do along the way in order to get there. And so the culmination of that in the last couple of years has been our work to develop some criteria and some standards and make those assessments available at no cost online for tourism businesses and destinations. And we went through quite a rigorous process to develop these standards. So we started with the Global Sustainable Tourism Council criteria. We wanted our foundation to be something that was internationally and globally relevant and also credible and applicable. We then reviewed several other international sustainability standards, indicators and frameworks, including the UN World Tourism Organization's indicators for sustainable tourism destinations, of course, the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the related targets and indicators of the UN SDGs. We then engaged dozens of NGOs, tourism businesses, tourism destinations, and experts in sustainability inside and outside of the tourism sector to provide their input and feedback on our draft criteria. And then once we had the criteria drafted, we submitted that back to the Global Sustainable Tourism Council for their formal verification process as part of their recognition program. And I'm pleased to say that both of our sets of criteria for tourism businesses and destinations have been recognized by the GSTC. And the resulting criteria for businesses has 87 questions or indicators and 87 questions and 460 indicators, and the destination criteria has 117 questions and 752 indicators. And all of those indicators can help us measure progress towards some of the outcomes and goals that were shared today, as well as many others. And it's broken down into a few sets of categories, four actually. The first one being management. The business criteria is looking at whether the destination has a sustainability management system. So these are the subcategories, and then under each subcategory, there are a number of questions. Compliance with laws and regulations, employee engagement around sustainability, guest engagement, marketing and communications, and then on the destination side, we're looking at to what extent sustainability management systems exist, risk, crisis, and emergency management, land use planning and infrastructure, business and resident engagement, so important, visitor engagement again, and marketing and communications. How are we sharing this story of sustainability, and is it accurate within the destination? The business criteria also looks at buildings and infrastructure, which is such an important element when it comes to ecosystem impacts and climate change. The next criteria is social and economic impacts. And in that category, we're looking at a number of other subcategories around community support and infrastructure, local employment and labor rights, ethical, fair trade and local products, accessibility and social and economic monitoring. Similar in the destination section, destination standard, we're looking at social well-being. How's the community doing? How are we measuring that? Impacts of tourism on residents, again, local employment and labor rights, economic impacts, local and sustainable businesses, and again, accessibility. We then have the natural and cultural interactions categories, and here we're looking very similar between both the destination and the business criteria: cultural heritage, biodiversity, local environment, ecosystems, landscapes, and wildlife. And finally, our environmental impacts category, which is the biggest category, and our criteria for both businesses and destinations are the same. So we're looking to what extent are businesses implementing and what extent are destinations advocating for and supporting things like energy conservation, water conservation, solid waste management, wastewater treatment and management, carbon emissions, and other types of pollution. So taking all of this great information that we're able to capture through our free online assessment tools and then some of the paid services that we have helping businesses and destinations utilize these criteria to develop action plans, we are able to pull all of that together through our online assessment tools. So this is just an example of what the scorecard looks like for a business or a destination that's going through the program. So you're able to see at a glance, and again, this is a free service that we're providing for both businesses and destinations to go through their criteria, see how they're doing in each of the main categories, and then also break that down into subcategories to see how are we doing in these different areas. And then at the question level, at any time, you can go back and take a look. How did I respond to that? And then what hasn't been responded to can become the foundation for the development of an action plan. What are the things that make sense for our destination or our business to make progress on and move forward on? Taking all of this information, combining all of the results from the assessments, our next development, which is very close to launching, I have a few sneak peek screenshots for you, is the Sustainable Tourism Dashboard that we're developing. So this is going to aggregate the results of all of the business and destination assessments and enable visualization and benchmarking by industry sector or geographic region. It will allow for destination managers, industry associations, and policymakers to see how different sectors or different regions are performing based on these globally recognized criteria, based on benchmarks within the industry, and then enable that measurement and reporting of progress and success over time. And ultimately, our goal is that that's going to be able to help to inform program development, policy development, and advocacy work to help address those gaps and those opportunities for improving the sustainability performance of the tourism industry. So the dashboard that we're developing, again, this is a screenshot with just some sample data in it. We're almost ready to publish it, but you'll be able to filter by cities and provinces right now. This data set is just going to be available for Canada, but we're certainly looking for partners to help us bring these tools outside of Canada. Filtering by business type, these are just a couple of examples, we'll have many others, and by category. And then if a region was looking at this, or an industry association, for example, we could see how is that industry or how is that region performing in each of these categories, and then also breaking it right down to the question level. What are the things that we need to do to move the needle to improve performance over time, and how do we compare to the benchmark, to everybody else who's gone through and taken the assessment and answered the questions. And I would also like to offer a call to action as I wrap up here today, is to take the online Sustainable Tourism 2030 pledge. It's a commitment for destinations and tourism businesses to measure and improve their sustainability performance year over year between now and 2030. And thanks very much.
I'm so inspired, and I am reminded of the Chinese proverb that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and you've each given us single steps that we can take today. And I think our challenge is to go forth and back to our communities and work with our leaders and help them get past the phrase, "There's nothing we can do about that," and help them understand, but there is. And what is that first step we can take to do something about these things, to go beyond just being measured by more and measured by better. Do we have any questions from the audience? Maybe we could turn up the house lights, because I can't see you. But if your hand is up, I can't tell. That was a lot of information really quickly. Chris? Yes, you want to shout it out?
Angela, Greenstep. So there's already 3 destination standards that are recognized by GST, including Earthcheck, a couple of others. So why do we need another certification program?
Well, we really want to move beyond certification. We were hearing from businesses and destinations that certification maybe wasn't the goal, but they did want to measure performance. So we wanted to make that really easy to do, to make it less subjective than some of the other standards we've seen out there, and provide access. Oh, thanks. Hopefully I'm projecting the old theater days. Provide access to tools at no cost for businesses and destinations that are just getting started. And that could be a pathway to certification with our certification or with any of the other certifications that are out there.
Yeah. Background to that question is I've been involved over the years in a couple of different certification things, and there's hundreds and hundreds of certification programs, and I think we've all got to recognise we've failed miserably in coalescing a small number that people understand and recognise. Consumers don't recognise certification programs, unfortunately, and somehow we've got to move beyond that if we're going to continue to do this.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry. Oh, sure. If
you have a question, please go to the floor mic. I didn't say that. So the people online can hear the question. Yeah, you each have a microphone.
There we go. Thank you. So the question was around, why another standard, why another certification? Consumers don't necessarily recognize those certifications, which, even any label out there takes decades really to gain traction and gain an understanding amongst an audience. I guess if the goal is marketing and consumer awareness, that is a challenge. But if the goal is improving performance and actually moving the needle beyond marketing and making tools available then really the label isn't that important. It's really what's behind it. And I think the GSTC has done a great job of creating a standard that all of these certification programs can align around, so at least we're all measuring the same things.
Okay, if you have a question, please go to the floor mic.
Hello, is it working? Yeah, okay, so my name is Florian, I'm from Germany. Oh, there we go. Hello, there we go.
It is. Now
it works now.
There it is.
So my name is Florian, I'm from Germany actually, and I love the sustainable travel development for sure that happens in the world. One comment and one question. The comment is, I think for us as an industry where we are working lots with the governments, the governments, they probably have a hard time influence or change businesses to do these specific policies to apply it. And I think what I've experienced is like we really have to pay a lot of attention in education, and not just educating the businesses, but also educating the travelers. And the education is, I think, where we can make all the difference in that. If we can tell our children what really the impact is on plastic long-term, and we haven't even talked about that, for example, or other things. That's really kind of where I think we can make a big difference. And the question that I want to ask you is, since we are a research organization here, is do you have any research of that, for example, travelers, world travelers, would be willing to pay a premium or extra to destinations or choosing destinations because they do have a specific sustainable travel policy? Thank you.
I think we touched on this yesterday a little bit about that. There's a lot of organizations, Booking, Expedia, and so on, coming out with surveys, and it's really it is about intention. I would actually turn it over to, so we're seeing consumer demand, certainly, and what people say they want to do, and that they are willing to, not necessarily, they'll say that they're willing to pay more, but in action, are they actually doing it? And I think I'd look to our academic community to potentially offer up if there are some good studies out there that show that the action is actually following up with the intention. I know one came out where it was specifically looking at business travelers, but they were able to correlate people's actions at home around their more, and actually identify what are more sustainable actions in your own lifestyle, and those actually correlated with more sustainable, responsible travel activities when they were out traveling. So we know there is some follow-up in intent, but I don't know if we have some really good studies to say that that is increasing, and maybe someone in the audience does, or maybe one of you.
Well, in Hawaii, one of the local universities did do a study. It's still recent, so I think they're going to have to do a couple of other iterations or correspondence, but did find that visitors were willing to pay an extra fee, particularly for fees to sites and maybe destination areas, as long as they know where the money is going and they have proof that it's being integrated into the care and maintenance. And we've seen in our resident studies that also residents are willing to pay the extra fee as long as they know that the benefit is there. So I think the same would come for the residents, visitors. But also we have to think about the shift is not just paying more to do a lot of it is using the visitor industry to make change within the community and the environment, not just economic impact anymore, but community, social, and environmental impact. So directly making the change, because before, when we had economic development, the money was collected, but it never got down to where the actual activities needed to be done. And that's why the community is always in revolt for this and in an uproar, because they don't see the money going down anymore. So they're expecting that the visitor industry contribute directly to making social and natural resources changes.
I'd just say one other comment too is that people are demanding it more, not necessarily thinking that they should have to pay more for companies that are doing good, that are treating their employees well, that are treating the residents and the land that they're on well. You know, it's becoming just much more part of society's awareness, and particularly with younger generations. And yeah, which shouldn't have to be something that they're saying, oh, I'm going to pay more to do this sustainable thing. It's just no, the expectations on the businesses are being more responsible is there. Maybe Angela, you'd have other.
Yeah, just I think we're moving beyond this, marketing of benefits and amenities to explaining the values alignment. How is this going to enhance my experience? How is this going to align with my values when I come and stay with you, or I come to have that experience? And it's at that point in time, when you're looking at two products or two experiences that have similar prices, or maybe even one is a little bit more, that story is really what's going to resonate. And I think, as Kelly mentioned, it's just becoming an expectation. People are making those choices based on values more and more.
Okay, thank you very much. For those of us here in the room today, we're going to take a break and we'll be back. But first, one way that we can all make an impact today is to go to the app for the conference and make a contribution to the TTRA charity that benefits those in the greatest need in the community, and almost like a carbon offset. That I think of it as a social offset. That last night I went out with friends and we certainly enjoyed the hospitality of this community. And I think as an industry, we could show hospitality to the least of those who need the most help. And so please join me in doing that, making that contribution, and thanking our amazing panel, Angela, Kelly, and Daniel. Thank you so much.